welcome to Help Me BJD episode 7, Buying New Dolls. I wanted to talk about face-ups, but then it kind of rained for a solid month, and now I don't really feel like it. So anyway, we're going to talk about buying new dolls, choosing which one to buy, where to buy it, and next time we'll be buying and selling on the second-hand market. So stay tuned for that. And at the end of the video there will be a section about some things that I'm planning on selling from my collection. So I'll let you know when that's coming, so if you're not interested in buying, then you can just, X me out or, go watch something else. But anyway, let's get right into it. So the first thing you have to do, pretty obviously, is find one that you want to buy. The thing you need to remember is that there are lots of companies out there, lots of good companies. I don't want anyone to think that all they can buy from is Volks, Fairyland, and Zoom, or other, really popular companies like that. There are so many, and there are new ones all the time cropping up. So please make sure you look at everything. Some companies are cheaper than others, but that doesn't mean they're worse. It doesn't mean you shouldn't buy from them. If you like what they have, then buy it. Try not to let the popularity and what other people have, what other people are doing, impact what you're going to buy. It's especially silly in this hobby because you're probably going to see very few other people in person who collect them, unless you make that your goal. So, bottom line, always look at everything, not just the most popular companies, and always buy what you want, not just what's popular or avoiding what's popular. Okay, so I'm not going to sit here and list companies for you. You should be able to find stuff by checking a doll forum. I like Den of Angels, or rather, that's the one I'm used to. That's the one I use. I'm told there are other ones, and I'm told apparently it's hard to join Den of Angels. Apparently you have to be invited or wait for a joining period or something. I really don't know, but find a doll forum on Den of Angels, DOA. They have threads for every lineup from, well, not, for most lineups for most companies. So you should be able to find lots of other companies, not just the main ones, simply by going through a forum for dolls and seeing what people are talking about. So look around before you decide, and remember that places are always releasing new things. The other thing you want to think about before you choose your doll is size. If you want to carry your doll around a lot of places, you might consider a tiny. Resin can get heavy, so that might be an issue if you are looking for portability. If you want to buy a whole bunch of dolls, you might consider smaller ones, because the smaller they are, generally the cheaper they are. Not always true, but usually. If you're a fan of the cute look, you might need smaller dolls. If you're a fan of the sexy look, you might need bigger dolls, because that's generally how they go. And keep in mind that big dolls take up more space, their clothes are more expensive, everything's more expensive as you get bigger in general. So remember that while you're choosing. Now let's say you found one you like. Are you going to buy it? There's more to think about than you might think of at a glance. But let's say you're buying new. Sometimes it's best to buy new. If the doll has just been released or is coming in a limited full set, you might not have much of a choice. You may want it pristine and shiny. You may feel loyal to a certain company and want to give them the money instead of giving it to someone else who has bought the doll from them, because technically they're missing a sale. So I guess if you're loyal enough, I wouldn't let that stop me if I saw a good deal on the secondhand market. But some people, I understand, are big on that. So whatever the reason, if you're buying new, the most important thing, especially if you're new to the doll world, is research. So the first question you have to ask yourself, which may seem kind of dumb, are you sure you want that doll? Often we see something shiny and new and buy it impulsively. That's one of the reasons why so many companies release limiteds, because they know that if they have a short time span over which you can acquire the doll, you go into this panic and you may pull money from other things, like say you were saving for a completely different doll from somewhere else. You might now pull that money and put it into this limited doll because that doll is limited and the other doll you were saving for may not be. You could get it any time. So this kind of strategy leads to impulsiveness. It leads to impulsive buying. So what you want to do, if you can, is don't see it, like it, buy it in the span of 10 minutes. You should probably try to wait a while, see if it's still on your mind a lot. If something else eclipses it within that time, or you stop thinking about it within that time, maybe it's not for you. But sometimes it's not an option. Sometimes the window for buying is like 2 days, or 2 weeks, or a month. So if you can, try to do it. But the bottom line is, fight down that urge to just see it and buy it if you can, because you might end up with a doll that you don't really want. And a lot of times people stop wanting it before it even reaches them, and that's just a bad situation, because it can take months to get to you. And it's very upsetting if you stop wanting the doll before it even shows up at your door. So don't be impulsive if you can help it. Another way to be sure you want the doll is to look at user photos. A lot of company photos, they could be photoshopped, they could be taken at deceptive angles, or my favorite was the Fairyland Chic line, where they had the dolls in poses that were not, the doll can't do them if it's strung properly. So you have to be wary about that kind of thing. And another thing is that the default face-up that the company sells the doll with is only one way to interpret the sculpt. Different face-ups can get a very different look on the doll. So you want to look at as many user pictures as you can and see that you are sure you like it from all angles, in the hands of people who aren't professional photographers, and you might see different angles that you don't see in the promotional pictures. Denim Angels has galleries. Sometimes more popular sculpts have their own thread with just people posting pictures of just that doll. So look through the galleries on doll forums, and also Flickr is a good place. Just type in the doll type and the sculpt name, for example, Little Feet Ante, and you can see usually a ton of pictures, especially for more popular dolls. It's generally faster than looking through Den of Angels, because there you have to open each separate thread. This just dumps a bunch of pictures at you, and you can see a whole bunch at one time. But another thing to keep in mind is that abbreviations can change your results. You can type out Little Fee, or you could type in LTF, which is the abbreviation that we use, and you can get different pictures if that person who tagging it used one or the other. So try both if there are abbreviations. Next, you should find people who own the doll and see if they're happy with them. Again, on DOA, there's discussion threads for certain types of dolls. You want to read through it a little and see if people are happy with quality, posing, the overall aesthetic. Ask questions, but be sure you search first, because generally the threads are just filled with the same question over and over. Be sure you check how easy it is to shop for that doll. Unless you can sew, you may want to avoid dolls that have few clothing options. An example is the Sume Rosette. If you look at her, she's extremely skinny, and the clothing is stuck in her joints. There we go. Extremely skinny and extremely tall, and not very well strong at the moment, compared to, we'll say, even a Minifee, which are also very skinny. And Sume has very few clothing options for this doll. So if you're not planning on commissioning outfits for her or sewing them yourself, you may not want to buy it because you'll have nothing to dress her in. So that's always a concern, is the availability of items for them. Also, are there extra parts? Are there extra hands, extra feet options, high-heeled feet, fantasy parts? That's important to some people, so look into it if you think that might be a deal breaker for you. If you already have dolls, you have to consider how your newcomer will look with your crew. For a lot of people, it's not a problem. A lot of people just collect whatever they like and they're good. But some people really enjoy taking pictures, photo stories, and if you're taking photo stories, you may not want this doll and this doll in the same picture, because it just doesn't work very well. You're not going to be able to focus it properly on both of them, probably, and it's just, the sizes are so disparate. You might want to consider how the dolls will look together. If you have mostly tinies, you may not want to buy yourself an SD. If you have mostly minis, you may not want a Pookie. It just depends. And sometimes it's more than just size. It can be the general look of the dolls too. If you have a lot of sort of big-headed minis, you may not want to get a realistic slim MSD and put them together, because it might just look odd. So make sure you think about that too. Okay, so let's say your doll of choice has passed all of these tests. Now it's time to take a look at the company where it comes from. Before every doll purchase, you must check the feedback for the company. Some companies get backed up from time to time. They may be in sort of a back order slump, where it suddenly is taking 6 months to get your doll instead of the ordinary 1.5 or 2. Some companies have poor customer service, poor quality control. Some companies are infamous for not correcting complaints that customers have. For example, oh, this doll is covered with scratches. Oh, well, that's normal quality. You may think that that isn't, and I think that would be an acceptable complaint, but the company might not address it. So always check the feedback. Den of Angels has feedback sections for most companies, so you can see how recent orders have gone. Keep in mind that companies that have had good everything in the past may not have good service, good turnaround time right now. Just because you had a successful order in the past doesn't mean this one will be good. So you have to check, even if you're ordering from the same company again. Some companies are infamous for, seriously, up to 8-month waits. And if you didn't check beforehand, that's your own fault. So make sure you look. You also need to make sure you're not getting ripped off. Some companies just don't offer the same quality for the price as others. The clothes may be ill-fitting or made of cheap material. The resin may be cheap. Their default wigs might not fit. Fairyland is sort of infamous for selling wigs that don't fit on the doll's head.